Hey guys, how are you doing? Another episode of Breaking Borders and Shattering Paradigms. I'll get the details out of the way right off the bat because I often forget to do that until later on in the show. So this show is, I can say every weekly, and it's usually on Thursday. And today's Thursday, so hooray for us! There are two components to it. The first one I call the 777. I call it a mini tip. So the 77, the 777 Club is a membership club on Facebook. We have an app that goes with it. There's regular Zoom gatherings. There's weekly teaching videos. There's sort of informal ones that I do throughout the week. So it's really focused on manifesting your desires. Is focused on the 5-step manifesting process in the workshops that we teach. The first one is step 1 is creating your perfect desire. Step 2 is living that desire, or we sometimes call it the C for those folks that have been to some of the events or had the home study. Step 3 is managing obstacles and or resistances. Step 4 is taking inspired action. And step 5 is celebrating your victories. So that's the group. It's a membership group, $7.77 a week. So in this show, I give you a little bit of a sample or a mini tip, so you can get a bit of a flavor for what that looks like. If you would like to know more, if you'd like to join the club, let's see. I'll have to send you an invite. There's a bit of a registration process, really easy. Just DM me and we'll go from there. The second portion is what we call Convergence or Convergence Method. Now, this is really the foundation of what I feel is going to be the healing center moving forward, really. Not that we're letting go of any of the existing stuff, but moving forward. Reinventing is a really valuable word, but I'm going to get into a story and I'm not going to. So this here has a private Facebook group, no charge. It's called The Conversations We All Want to Have. Many of you are already members of it. In this, we discuss all matters related to both theoretical, if you want to use that word, and experiential, which is really different now. Things have really changed a lot in this last little while. And that's what I'm going to talk about in part 2 of the show. If you would like to be part of that group, DM me and I will send you an invite. Let me think. Anything else? Nope, I think that's it. So why don't we just jump into the topic? So we're going to go into the 777 mini tip right now. So for the 777 mini tip for this week, and this one's been floating around in my awareness for a while now. Most of this week, actually, especially the last 3 or 4 days. And I'm going to bring in Mr. Flipchart. Many of you will have seen Mr. Flipchart. Mr. Flipchart says, hi. Okay. Many of you will have seen this. This won't be new for you, but just to set a little bit of a foundation. In this present moment, which is where you're at right now, there are 3 hemispheres for our purposes here. And many of you will have seen it drawn kind of like that with we'll do it quick and dirty like this. This one I call the physical. So this is the aspect of this present moment that you experience with your 5 senses. Right, I'm just going to move this window on top so I don't need it really big there, so I can see a bit better. Perfect. Is the world that we experience with our 5 senses. This one here is what I call non-physical. And of course, all that means is that's a very real aspect of this present moment. It just doesn't necessarily fit in your 5 senses experience. So what creates this? Again, your 5 senses. What are the building materials for this? Your thoughts. What are your thoughts? So your thoughts are pictures and movies, voices or dialogues. So if you break this down into the raw materials, your thoughts, right? So what lives in your thoughts? Your memories, projection to the future. If you're visualizing, you're thinking about something, that all happens in the non-physical. And the building materials of that are pictures and movies, voices or dialogues. That's it. So whether you call it a memory or a future or a present or whatever, they're still made with the same raw materials. Now, of course, the important thing to remember here, even more so now, is just because you maybe don't directly experience that non-physical with your five senses does not mean it's not real or not relevant. And in many respects, that's even more relevant now than before. Okay, let's head back. So that sets up a little bit of a foundation. This here I'll often call time. I have different labels for it, but we'll call that time for argument's sake. Again, this is some theory in a very tiny nutshell, but it sets a bit of a foundation for the mini tip. I call it the creative flow. The creative flow is going this way. So what I mean by that is this environment here tends to be the cause. This one tends to be, yeah, I'm still on the screen, the effect. So the consistent environment in your non-physical is what manifests through time, right? Through time into a physical experience. Now, let's go into the topic. So I'm just going to bring up another screen here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use this color. So just so we have some reference, this is the non-physical, and I will try and write this somewhat legibly. This is the physical, right? So the non-physical, physical, and I'm going to say this is time. And I almost want to do this because time is such a fundamental of our life experience, and it's one of the most misunderstood ones. But for our purposes here, let's go back to the flip chart. So when you're visualizing, so I think many of you who are watching this are going to be familiar with visualizing. So for us in the second step, I call it living your desire on the inside. What are you doing? You're creating that picture or that movie in the non-physical, right? Because what that will do is that sort of injects it into this creative flow that we talked about. But specifically for today, this is kind of a really neat understanding. And I think sometimes with visualization, we get that a little bit mixed up as well. So this is one aspect of it, because there's so many aspects of it. So when you're visualizing something, so here you are and you're visualizing something, right? Whoa, I can't spell, but you guys know that. You're visualizing something. So you're creating that picture of that movie. Now, you can do that. It can be anything. When you're visualizing, you can create whatever you want. Right? Time has nothing to do with it. Space has nothing to do with it. Logic has nothing to do with it. Right? You can create, you can visualize anything you want. Now, one of the precepts that we have, and this probably won't be new for you guys, is when you're creating that visualization, you're creating it as though the desire has already manifested. Right? So it's Wayne Dyer, I think, is the first one that I heard say it. Thinking from the end. So you're creating pictures or movies that for you would be real or relevant after your desires already manifest. Not on the way so much, but after. So if it was a health and wellness desire, the picture of movies you're going to create, or I'm thinking about fantasize, same thing, right? Daydream, right? Are going to be ones after you've regained full health and wellness. Not so much on the way, not getting there, but it's okay. If I was completely healthy, completely well, what would I do? Now, here you are creating these scenarios. Now, yes, you're going to create some that are along the path, absolutely. But our focus wants to be kind of on the end. So now when you're creating those, because they don't have to adhere to time or space or like linear progression or anything. So all you're doing, all quote unquote, I'm going to get rid of this. So you're creating this little vignette, and we're going to say this is, I'm just making up stuff. This is one, right? So you create this little picture or this movie. Doesn't matter whether it's where it's at, what it is, whatever, right? Then you create another one that's here, and you create another one that's here, another one that's here, another one that's here, whatever, right? So you've got all these events, and you're creating and feeling these events as though they already are here. So one of the things I talked about in, I can't remember which show, was it's almost like creating a memory. Because if it's already happened, right, and you're telling me about this really cool thing that you experienced after it already happened, in a way, it's like a memory. So we create these things and we go, okay, so, I mean, there's all this teachings and understanding of what that does and things like that. But I think what we don't understand sometimes, and especially now, is when we construct that and live it, and especially when we feel it, it is a very real thing. And just because that, you know how they have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So you're visualizing, oh, it feels really good. And then it kind of just concludes or ends. Well, here's the thing with those events. Those events are living, especially when you feel them, when you visualize them. And then they're a real thing. And then here's what happens. So remember, this is the creative flow, right? The non-physical gives form to the physical. So then what happens with these is through the course of time, these actually will manifest down into the physical. And they'll manifest something like this. This one, maybe go here. Right? And I don't know, this one, maybe go here. And this one, maybe go here. Well, this one, maybe go here. And this one, right? Maybe go here. And this one maybe goes here. So these events that you're creating that may seem random, as they move through time, what they do is they create, and this isn't my phrase, it's a Neville Goddard phrase, but I really like it, a sequence of events. So on the physical, these appear to be this, well, this creates this, creates this, creates this, creates this, creates this, creates this, and here we are at my desire. So these random experiences that you create, especially when you feel them, they'll manifest down, making their way through time, and they form what appears to be a very logical, natural sequence of events. Next event, next event, next event, next event. See, so what's really cool about this is, as well as all the other really vital aspects of visualizing and feeling it, what they do is, if you keep doing that, it's like you're giving this creative flow, which is what I typically call this, right? Your creative flow. You're giving it material to work with. Now, oh dear, don't switch your, be good. You're giving it material to work with. So I'm not saying they'll be exactly that way, but the theme of them, they're going to kind of float down, and they're the ones create this sequence of events. So then the more you do that, right, the more kind of material you give this creative flow to create what appears to be this very logical linear this, then carries on to this, and carries on to this, and carries on to this. But that's only the appearance of that linear progression. It's when you're seeding the non-physical. The more you seed it, the more information, raw materials it has to then move down and create that very logical sequence of events that takes you to your desire. All right, that is the 777 free mini tip. A whole lot more like that in the 777 club. What else? One-on-ones with me if you wish, coaching sessions, just a lot of value there. So if you want to know more about it, just DM me. Okay, let's move on to Convergence Method. So Convergence Method, in a nutshell, is the label, all these labels that we use for what is being called, this isn't new, the feminine flow, the let's see what else. Feminine flow, I've heard it, core energy, earth energy, central energy, sexual energy, just all these different labels. But it's that feminine energy, and it tends to flow from beneath and up. One of the reasons earth energy is a pretty good label as well. But again, don't get hung up on the labels, right? This is, again, many of you will have heard me say this before. And that's why the transition. The transition? Oh, and I bet it's locked up. So the switcher drives you crazy. So it's the reemergence. So it's the reemergence of this feminine energy flow. And the Conversations group talks about that a lot. Again, theory, but also experiential things as well. The 777 Club also has immersive meditations, which are really cool that you can download and try. But anyway, so the Convergence Method, the reemergence of the feminine energy flow. So what is a topic about that? So let me just, I'm actually just going to go over to Mr. Flip Chart here. I'm almost wondering if my computer's overheating. I run a lot of stuff through here. Oh, no, it's not bad. I've got a little fan actually. So yeah, we'll just, I'll redraw it, just probably as easiest. So there's the physical, the non-physical, and time. And in case you're just watching this clip, really briefly, the physical is that aspect of this present moment that you experience with your five senses. The non-physical is that aspect of this present moment that are made up of your thoughts. So the way I break thoughts down is pictures of movies, voices, or dialogues. So it's that aspect of our experience that we maybe don't directly feel with our five senses. But just because it's non-physical doesn't mean it's non-real or non-relevant. And then there is that period of time. Any of you that have attended our events and did the home studies, there's this, we call it the creative flow. So the creative flow goes this way. So the environment here is what influence or really gives form to your physical experience. Again, just in a little tiny nutshell. Now I'm going to add one more label to this. Time in this buffer, and also your body. So I'm sort of differentiating things a little bit now more. I'm going to label this just because. So is our thoughts, which are pictures, movies, voices, or dialogues. Five senses. And I'm going to call this your external experience. Right? So it's out here. It's your external experience out there. And then there is your body. So of course this is five senses as well. So there's those three aspects of it. There's your physical, which is your external experience, that five senses, the information that comes in from them. There's the non-physical, which are your thoughts. And then there is your body, which again, of course, is five senses. So what's been happening in this past, really the past while, but now really the reemergence of this is really what's presenting itself, is what I've called, and I've been using this for quite a while now, I call it community with a capital C. And what I mean by that is it's community that's not based on a theology, a philosophy, a doctrine, a set of structures, labels, all that kind of stuff. This community that is now re-emerging, or communities, which would be more accurate, is based on spirits vibrating in bodies, that's you and me, that resonate or harmonize together. And so that natural community or blending or harmonizing just naturally happens. It's not based on an external set or structure that we fit into. There is no structure. If there is one, it's a byproduct of the harmonizing and blending of spirits and bodies vibrating together. And that structure that's created serves the community, not the other way around, which is a very big difference to what we've experienced for who knows how long. And it's dynamic and it's changing. It's not rigid because it's a byproduct of this blending and connecting. Okay. Now, where does that happen? So this is one of the really big game changers is that harmonizing, that blending together happens. Let's see what color I've got going on here. Happens here. So I did a video quite a while ago. It was called Mind Currents. And what I talked about was how hold on. Just don't mind me. Don't go away. Let's see. It's okay. No, that's just that's my sister. We moved our mother into an apartment. Her choice. I just checking. She must have went over and visited. Okay, so we're back. So that blending, that connecting, it happens here first. Now, you see, in the non-physical, one of the limitations that are not there that we may experience here is here, I am here and you're wherever you're at watching or listening to this. But in the non-physical, there isn't that. It is, as I said, sort of, I call it, like I said, I think I called it mind currents. And what I meant by that was, think of this. This is again quick, but you'll get it. This is a river. That's the shores of the river. And there's currents flowing through it. And my non-physical is this one. Whoops, is this one. And your non-physical is this one. And somebody else's non-physical is this one. And so what happens is we're all different currents in the same river, which means these can kind of crisscross. See what I mean? So when we are here, yes, this is your body and this is mine, but where there's that blending happens here. And the cool thing is, it's not limited by time, but it's also not limited by distance. So that blending is happening, that harmonizing is happening in the non-physical. Now, why does this change everything? Because your community is being naturally created, and it's not limited by, in this case, distance. So members of your community, there could be members of your community, you've never met them before. But what's happening is there's this natural harmonizing between spirits vibrating in bodies, which is you and I, that is creating these communities that are not limited by distance. Now, this isn't even a terribly new understanding. And we've experienced this before. I mean, we teach Reiki, right? So when Reiki, they talk about distance healing treatments and that connecting that happens. So that's not really anything that's terribly new. Here's what's new. What's new is this blending. Whoa, I moved the screen. This, and I don't know how to move it back because I don't know what it did. This blending that's happening here, right? The ability to actually feel it, these are supposed to be bodies, just so you know, feel it in our body is actually greatly enhanced. So where, I'm going to say maybe in the past, and it's not that that literal past, present, future kind of thing. But in the past, yeah, we've been aware of this, and the soul groups, and there's all sorts of different labels for it. So that's not terribly new. But what's happening is the ability for us to feel it in our body is. Now, this has always been here before, but what's happening is because so many of these external structures, topic for another show, are crumbling around us, there's a clarity that is happening. And so now, not only do we have this non-physical understanding of this natural harmonizing, but we also feel it more in our bodies. So we will actually, where it's happening now and it's going to happen more, not only when I talked about this here, right? Not only this is your mind, this is my mind, this is somebody else's, these are kind of blending together. We're actually able to feel that even more, which changes everything. See, that changes really in many respects. I'm just gonna move this keyboard. That changes the way it's really a renaissance. It's really a renaissance in the way we live, work, play, connect, heal, all that kind of stuff. Because I can feel what you're feeling. Because that, it's a cliche term, but it's true, because that veil is thinner now, right? The veil is thinner. And so we don't have so much of that kind of confusion and obstruction. So what does that mean? That means that you're going to feel sensations. 5 senses in their body, right? You're going to feel sensations that there's no apparent external cause for them. And again, many of you experienced like this before. It's just going to be enhanced and deepened. You'll smell an aroma, right? And many of you have experienced this. You smell, I don't know, you smell pipe smoke, or you smell grandma's apple pie or something like that. And so what's happening more and more is that maybe somebody in your community, and this is a little bit projecting into the future, but I really believe this is what's happening, is somebody in your community is cooking apple pie. And so they're catching that aroma, right? So they're catching that aroma, or they're smelling it. Where am I at here? Whoops, here's what I want. They're catching that aroma, and that what happens is now that's blending here, right? So you got this person here that's on the other side of the world cooking apple pie. You're on this side of the world. So I'm not saying you connect directly here, but where you're connecting is here, and you are feeling, in this case, or smelling the aroma that they're smelling. This happens in twins often, maybe not that, but one twin will know what the other twin, if the other twin is ill, the other twin will feel it, and that type of thing. I think that's just an expansion of this, which now changes everything again, because as you continue in your self-healing work, expanding, growing, and evolving, now the other members of your community are going to experience the benefits of that. Now, remembering, we always are our own people. So it's not like we lose our own autonomy, but there's also this power that is within this community, because what's causing this and the ability to feel that is the reemergence of the feminine energy flow, because the feminine energy feels. This is what's been missing for so long, or at least have been allowed to atrophy. And again, at least in our Western society, so much is that ability to feel. So as that ability returns in many ways, now this bonding and this blending that's been happening for who knows how long, we're now able to feel it in deeper and more powerful ways. And that changes everything. That really just changes everything, because now you and I and whoever else is in your community is now connected in a more deeper way, experientially. So when you heal, everybody in your group heals. That we can all lean on each other. We can grow with each other. And don't be surprised if people will start to just show up Because as your community starts to gather together, I really believe, and again, it's not like this hasn't been happening before, but it's going to be happening a lot more now, is that this natural connecting, both non-physically and physically, is going to happen more and more and more, which will change, as I said, everything. Boy, that was an awful long convergence mini tip, but there you go. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. That second one was really powerful. A lot of it was kind of flowing as I was talking. Share, share, share. We're all in this together. I clipped these two, so they're two little segments, and I'll post them as well. They're up on YouTube as well, so you can kind of just jump to those, each one of these sections, if you wish. We're good. See you on the web.